Hello everyone, and welcome back to Crafted Creations. Today I'm going to show you how to weather your action figures using this Star Wars Episode 1 young Anakin Skywalker. If you look at the reference photo I'm using, his tunic is definitely a darker color brown, so we're going to use this territorial brown apple barrel. Go ahead and use the black. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to heavily water the brush and just add a dab of the territorial brown. It's going to be mostly water, so that way it just kind of sinks into the cracks and creases in the tunic. And also having the excess water allows you to manipulate the paint and kind of move it around where you want. This is kind of a washing technique that you can use with pretty much any standard acrylic paint without having to spend a bunch of extra money on washes, specialized washing paints that you really don't need. You can get the same effect from standard paints that I always use. We're going to go ahead and do the back here. And I have a mini fan set up off camera to help the water dry a little bit faster. So as that water starts to dry, you can just go back over with a brush and kind of move the paint around where you want. But having a diluted mixture will allow you to get just a tint of color over the light tan brown. So we don't want to completely repaint the tunic, but we do want to just add some layers and some weathering to this to make it look more run down. I'm going to add a little bit of black to that mixture and just kind of go in some of the creases, add some shadowing here. Same thing, keep the brush wet. That'll allow you to kind of move that paint around wherever you want, and then also it doesn't completely cover the surface. We just want to tint the cloak and still keep the basic feel of the figure, but also just make it more screen accurate coloring. Just go ahead and fill in any of the creases and cracks that you missed. Next, we're going to use some Tamiya Weathering Master powders. We've got the sand, the light sand, and the mud. What I like to do is I start with the darker colors first and work my way to the lighters. The shadows are usually going to fall towards the back of your 3D model when you look at the way lighting works. Highlights are always going to be on the top surface of any 3D object. So I usually start with the darks and then kind of work my way up to the lighters on the surface. These brushes are kind of spongy, so depending on what you're working with, sometimes I'll use brushes, sometimes we'll use the sponges. But for this Anakin, the sponges will work nice because that'll kind of smear the powders around. Next, we're going to move to the light sand. We're going to go ahead and just apply a little bit of that to the pants. May have gone a little dark on those, but we're just going to kind of highlight the surface area. Still keep some of that darker brown, just kind of look like it's scuffed up a little bit as he's been working on his pod racer, or just doing dirty work for Watto. Here we're going to add the regular sand color. The reference picture that comes from the Episode 1 teaser poster, where Anakin is walking and Darth Vader's shadows on the backdrop of his house in the back. He's got some sand caked up on his boots, so we're going to go ahead and try and replicate that. It'll also bring out the color and the weathering of the boots so it looks like it's a separate piece instead of just one solid molded plastic like the original Hasbro figure. I'm also going to add a touch of that light sand to his hair. I feel like the Hasbro figure added too much of a dark wash on Anakin's hair. Young Jake Lloyd, he has more of a blonde, sandy brown color in the original film. So we're just going to add a touch of this light sand, and then I'm going to go over it a tad with the territorial brown with a very wet brush to kind of move that around a little bit. That way it doesn't look like all the powder's caked up in one spot. And was pretty happy with this, but the tunic looked a little too dark. And looking at the reference photos, there's a touch of gray in there a little bit. So I'm going to do the same kind of washing technique that we did at the beginning. I'm just going to add a touch of this elephant gray. We're going to do the same thing, keep that brush wet so you can move that paint around. And as it dries, you can just drag that so it just adds a little bit of a tinting to it. Already starting to look a lot closer to screen accurate here. Just going to add a little bit more of the dirty sandy color here to the boots. And there you have it, folks. There is our more screen accurate, weathered up young Anakin Skywalker from Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. I hope you learned from this video. If you did like this, go ahead, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel down below. I've got some more stuff coming up for you. I think with the success of Deadpool and the Wolverine, maybe we need to switch and do a Marvel Legends custom for the next video. So look forward to sharing some new stuff with you in the future. And as always, stay crafty.